My character's name is Margret Foster, who is a young girl who moved to Manhattan in search of work as a performer to help her family financially. Over time, she adapts to city life and all the turmoil that comes with it, finally moving to London to escape the mafia. There, she faces death, who waits with bated breath for the carnage that will follow the start of World War II. I created this story specifically to embellish the character transformations each new age produced, from modesty to flamboyant glitz and glamour, to hardships and poverty, to finally the mass death that accompanied World War II. The prompts just went hand in hand with the points I was attempting to communicate in the journals. Finding the time and effort to write the journals was difficult, but I worked well under pressure, so I managed to get them mostly completed. I enjoyed the freedom that the project gave me to create whatever plot and story I wanted. I constructed the journals with alternating points of view, going from an outsider's perspective on Margret to her own first-hand account of events. This gives an aura of mystery around her motives and thoughts, with glimpses of clarity in between. The final journal is written by Death about Margret and his outlook on the war to come. The first journal I'm going to read is written in the perspective of Margaret's rival from work, named Elizabeth Miller. Admissions form for the afterlife. Name, Elizabeth Miller. Died, July 18th, 1926. Explanation of death. It was July, and the city of New York was a sweltering mass of people, all wearing the same style of clothing and all boasting their wealth in the form of consumer goods. I still worked at the playhouse with Maggie Foster, as she liked to be called now instead of Margret, as my designated understudy for the past 3 years. We had never gotten along since the very first day she came into the playhouse with her modest little self, which betrays the ideals of this wonderful new era. Never in a million years would I have guessed that she would be the one to take my life, but here I am. My favorite place in the entire world is located in Central Park, near the center, where there is a small alcove of trees that creates a woven, concealed nook of sorts. In the middle of this nook is a bench that has been interwoven into a tree, which winds its way into the structure. It is such a quiet place, which is a stark contrast to the city that is crowded with immigrants, mostly from Great Britain or Northern Europe, ever since the National Origin Act of 1924 that limited the amount of people that could come from Asia and Eastern Europe. This place was my safe space, away from Maggie and her boyfriend Johnny, who always seemed to be in my way. Much to common belief, I quite like Maggie. She is talented, almost more so than I am, and she exemplifies all of the quintessential qualities of a flapper. I wish Johnny weren't in the picture, poisoning her thoughts against me, because I really think we would have made good friends. I knew that she would come for me. It was only a matter of time after she joined the mafia that I knew she would get a taste for violence and see her way to victory. Maggie Foster will regret her actions for the rest of her life. She chose to abandon the law and walk down this path of evil. She killed me in my safe space, my beautiful quiet alcove. Maggie Foster, no longer an utter study, but finally a true, real lead. It pains me to think of her in this light, as a murderer, and specifically my murderer, because in truth, I was in love with her, and now I am gone, along with the person I once thought she was. This next journal is written by Death. The day was September 1st, 1939, and I watched from above as Germany invaded Poland, and the spirits began to rise in billows into my outstretched hands. It was summer's end, but summer nevertheless, and the heat of the bodies was sweltering. I could feel the tension in the air as the world waited with bated breath to see what would happen. War was never fun for anyone. I had too much paperwork dealing with all the souls needing sorting and assigning to afterlife compartments. One young soul caught my attention as it found its way lazily into my clutches from a small town outside of London. It was battered and bruised, with the effects of the Great Depression smeared over it like coal dust. Dirt from the Great Plains coated the soul's lungs, and foggy intoxication clouded her mind. One thing was clear. The soul was a female, and she was determined to die. She would not be returned to the earth, where war spiked between the Axis powers and those that opposed them. She would leave this world and never return, because that is what she so desired. It was my duty to fulfill her wishes, as it was my convenient Gemmer job to do so. So I took her fragile soul and placed it high above the others so that she could look down upon the world and be thankful that she was no longer down below in the chaos of wartime. I looked upon her collar and saw a name there like a label. It said in a small script, Maggie Foster, to die, to sleep no more. I am death, and she shall sleep no longer as is her wish, and I am to be the one to grant it.